Support for this podcast comes from Frito-Lay and the 2023 Snack Bracket Championship. The Frito-Lay Snack-A Challenge is underway, and fans are voting on their favorite snacks to crown champion. We're talking about prime-time matchups between the best 64 snacks in the land. Will Ruffles Ridges reign supreme? Can Doritos defend their dynasty? Or will Smart Food use their smarts for a surprise upset? Only you can decide. Get in on all the action for a chance to win up to $1,000 or a year's worth of snacks. Let your snacks be heard. Just go to fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com to vote and enter for a chance to win. No purchase necessary. Sweepstakes ends April 3rd, 2023. Void where prohibited. Year's worth of snacks awarded in the form of 52 coupons, each good for one bag of chips. See official rules at fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com.
This is the Black Gold Banneret Podcast. Now, here are your hosts, Jeff Sharon and Eric Lopez.
Oh my God, what kind of a day. Every time, we record on a Thursday, some bomb drops now in the summer. Like, I can't get what is going on here. Jeff Sharon, along with Andrew Glukov and Eric Lopez here, like, this is a mind-blowing day in the college sports news world. It just is. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the football schedule coming out. But listen, let's put all that on the back. The story right now is the American Athletic Conference, ladies and gentlemen, and the Big 12.
We're at war.
ESPN. It's, like the troops are marching across 114 in Irving, Texas right now from the Big 12 headquarters, and they're heading in the direction of the American Athletic Conference headquarters, merely 0.4 of a mile away.
So much for the whole theory of the American and Big 12 working together.
Woo! My goodness gracious. All right, well.
Conventional weapons have been equipped. There'll be much warfare. Bodies will be found on the streets. Lives will be lost. And some conference is going to get stronger.
Well, it's not going to get that dark. I mean, let's be real here. But anyway, let's get started. So the news today, as we record on late Wednesday, July 28th, and as far as I know, nothing else has dropped yet as I frantically check Twitter, is that the news from earlier in the week is that it was official as of Monday. The Big 12 received a note from Texas and Oklahoma stating that they will not renew their grant of rights in 2025, at least Texas and Oklahoma won't, which is essentially saying we're filing for divorce and we're planning on leaving by 2025. We'll handle our obligations up until then, but once 2025 rolls around, we're out of the Big 12. All right. So, and then post haste, actually it was this morning, both schools on, interestingly enough, on combined letterhead, officially applied for membership in the SEC. So, Greg Sankey had his, boilerplate statement, whatever. And that's, that's where it stood, at least as of right now. So, interesting, by the way, did you guys see the stationery? Texas
had both letterheads on, or both.
Yes, but there was a difference. There was a difference between the two. Did you notice it?
I did not, but I didn't look at it that closely.
Okay, this is how petty this is. Texas, the one that Texas sent, and they put up an image of it on their Twitter account, has the University of Texas's seal in the upper left, Oklahoma seal in the upper right, and the wording always said the University of Texas and the University of Oklahoma. The Oklahoma one had the Oklahoma seal on the upper left, the Texas seal on the upper right, and it said the University of Oklahoma and the University of Texas. Yes, they are that petty. They are that petty.
But there's more petty. Turns out there's a lot more pettiness than we thought.
Yes, thank you, Eric.
But wait,
excellent
there's
segue.
More.
But wait, there's more. You thought that was petty. Oh boy, here we go. So the Big 12 comes out. Of course, the remaining 8 of the Big 12.
We just call them the Little 8.
We'll call them the Little 8, whatever you want to do. They send, and their commissioner, Bob Bowlsby, sends a letter to ESPN. By the way, who is their broadcast partner for most of their games, all right? stating that basically it's a cease and desist letter from the Big 12 to ESPN saying that you will no longer. I'm trying to pull it up here so I can read at least part of it here. And give me a second. But Eric, can you kind of summarize in the meantime while I fumble for the stupid letter that they wrote?
So they basically reports are they sued their cease and desist on ESPN and other conferences. The allegations are that ESPN and a conference not to be named apparently try to get
at least one other conference.
Yeah. They try to get 3 to 5 teams from the Big 12 to join that league. Now it's pretty much well known. I guess that the belief is it's the American. It's the American. The ESPN helping Mike Oresco and the ESPN trying to get
baby-faced assassin, the American Athletic Conference.
He's playing chess.
Woo!
Yeah,
I'll tell you.
Remember all those so much for those people saying, "Well, Mike ain't gonna do anything." Hell, he's
Oresco.
Oh yeah,
he's causing a war. What is he doing?
Yeah, I gotta read part of this. Ross Dellinger posted the letter, and credit to Ross. Man, is he having a week this week, huh? Ross has been all over this story in the last couple weeks. It's from the Big 12 and Commissioner Bob Bowlsby to Burke Magnus, who's the president for programming and original content. It has come to my direct attention that ESPN, this is quoting directly from the letter, that ESPN, the current business partner of the Big 12 Conference, has taken certain actions that are intended to not only harm the Big 12 Conference, but to result in financial benefits for ESPN. Setting aside ESPN's potential involvement in the recent announcement by the University of Texas and the University of Oklahoma that they intend to leave the Big 12 Conference in 2025, as to which we reserve all legal rights, I am aware that ESPN has also been actively engaged in discussions with at least one other conference regarding that conference inducing additional members of the Big 12 Conference to leave the Big 12 Conference. As you know, our members have entered into contractual obligations to the Big 12 Conference under amended and restated blah, 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 blah. All right. The Big 12 Conference demands that ESPN immediately cease and desist all actions that may harm the conference and its members, and that it not communicate with the Big 12 Conference's existing members or any other NCAA conference regarding the Big 12 Conference's members, possible conference realignment, or potential financial incentives or outcomes related to possible conference realignment.
Can't make this up.
Yeah. Here's the funniest part. It's the last sentence. Please provide the Big 12 Conference with your written assurances that all such actions will immediately cease and desist by noon Central Time on July 29th, 2021.
ESPN's probably going to tell them to go pound sand.
Yes. See that sand? Yeah. So, reaction on Twitter, of course, has been swift. Yeah. Thanks. I want to go to what our friends at Fear the Wave have said. I think this sums it up perfectly. It really does. This is what Fear the Wave blog on Twitter said, and I retweeted it. I very publicly held a position that there was almost no way the Big 12 could bungle this enough for the AAC to overtake it as a power conference. The situation changed. These guys are rubes without OU and UT. Short all Big 12 stock immediately. That pretty much nails it.
You know, it's bad when, I'm going into this. My first thought when all this was breaking is like, wow, this is bad for college sports. I mean, I still think it could be. But I went from man, I can't believe Oklahoma, Texas did this to now I'm saying, oh, I understand now why Oklahoma and Texas did, because they've been dealing with a bunch of idiots. They've been dealing with a bunch of idiots. This is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. You're going to sue the network that controls this sport that, by the way, bailed out the Big 12 a decade ago. They were basically out the door to go to the Pac-12.
And Fox. Pac-12 and Fox, by the way. Fox was all over that.
Correct.
There was no ESPN and ABC were not going to be a part of that.
Right. They were kind of out the door to the Pac-12. ESPN comes in, bails them out, gives them the Longhorn Network, bails Texas. They keep Texas and Oklahoma. Texas and Oklahoma were about to leave a decade ago. They put a Band-Aid on this. And now you're going to sue them? Get out of here. Bob Bowlsby is ruining his chances of getting the job as getting Paul Feinbaum his coffee. That's what he's ruining right now. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Drew, why on earth, if you're the Big 12 and and I wrote earlier this week, I did 3 days worth of combing through television ratings to determine that
which other national media personalities ripped off.
Congratulations, Stuart Mandel. Well, a little. I think Stuart. Listen, great minds think alike. I see you, Stuart Mandel. I'm trying to give Stu the benefit of the doubt, but anyway, what we know is that when you look at the remaining 8 teams in the Big 12, and you look at the games that involved only them, you take out Oklahoma, you take out Texas, any game involving either of those 2 schools, or obviously them playing each other. And you look at the average viewership over the last 5 seasons, and I think you need to throw 2020 out because it was such a mess because of COVID. Which conference, the Little 8 or the American Athletic Conference, averages more viewers per game over the last 4 full seasons of college football? The answer is the American Athletic Conference. So why, if you're Bob Bowlsby, and you know that, and if he doesn't know that, he's an idiot and should be fired immediately as the commissioner of the Big 12. If you know that, why then would you turn around and go after your primary media rights partner like this? Why?
He has nothing left to lose. That conference is dead.
Yeah,
and he knows it.
Go for it, Drew.
Yeah, the conference is dead on arrival. And the key is hold Texas and Oklahoma as long as possible and bank as much cash as possible. If they want to leave early, then you pay a huge amount in exit fees from the grant of rights, which they're going to try and fight. But either way, they're going to make a killing on cash compared to if they let this all play out the way that ESPN wants them to, which is get enough teams out the door so that they vote to dissolve the conference. No more grant of rights, no more exit fees. And then ESPN gets the deals that they want. That's what they want, ultimately. So at this point, Bowlsby knows that he's out of a job by 2025. He wants to milk it as long as he can and hold things together because at this point, there's no way that anyone's going to jump over to this conference with the way things are playing.
Not now. Like, if you're UCF, right, and you get a phone call and that zip code says Big 12, Bob Bowlsby, you can't pick up the phone right now.
No, you hit the decline button. You send it right to voicemail.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to go after the big mothership. And the last thing you want to do is have the big mothership.
No, you don't go after. Yeah. You don't chase the mouse. That's what this comes down to because you will lose.
Well, they've already lost. That's the thing.
Yeah.
This is a chase of desperation. They've already lost.
Yeah, and here's the other thing. Here's why, Drew, you're right that they have already lost, and this is not just from a hot take perspective. It's really true. All right, Kendall Kaut, who and forgive me, Kendall, if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. He writes for our SB Nation sister site that covers Baylor, Our Daily Bears. Had a great post called "Why I Think the Big 12 is Going to Collapse and How Baylor Should React." He's a lawyer by trade, and he wrote, and he has a pretty good understanding, if you read this post, of the Big 12's bylaws. All right, and one of the things that he mentioned here is that okay, I'm going to read this right from the article, and I'll link to it in the show notes. The real reason the grant of rights doesn't matter is because the rest of the league will collapse too. Texas Tech would be insane to wait around hoping to legally bind Texas and Oklahoma into the league and then think Texas and Oklahoma are staying. Instead, Texas Tech should leave. Okay, blah, 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 blah. If the Big 12 is down to just 1 or 2 schools left, the league could simply dissolve or amend its bylaws. This gets nerdy and legally debatable. Theoretically, dissolving the league or changing bylaws requires 8 votes or 75% of members to change them. Only a majority of the conference can vote to settle litigation. Bylaw 1.5.2A6, dissolution requires 75%, which is 8 votes. So that means 6 Big 12 schools, which is just the majority of the 10, could leave the conference, sue, turn around and say, we owe nothing and the league is dissolved. And then those 6 members could say, we agree with the lawsuit filed by us, and therefore we concede the lawsuit. So it's checkmate. And checking to my math here, okay, out of the 10 that are still currently members, all right, Texas and Oklahoma are 2, all right, and if it's true that 3 to 5 members are being nudged toward another conference, be it the American or someone else, last I checked, 2 plus 5 equals 7. 2 plus 4 equals 6. So that's enough votes to overturn any legal action that the Big 12 conference could take against its members, or ESPN, or you name it, and then dissolve the conference.
Yeah, that's pretty well said.
That's checkmate. It's
checkmate.
over.
It's done, and that's why this is their last resort, as Drew has broken it down. And the big news here, from a UCF perspective, the Americans is on the positive side here. They're not going to get plucked away here. Not right now. If anything, they could get added more because ESPN wants that to happen. Now, why would they want that, Jeffrey?
Because they own it.
Because the American has an exclusive contract with ESPN that runs through 2030. That's why.
What year? What year is that?
2030.
You mean that same length that everybody?
Wait, who put that deal together?
That was that Mike Oresco guy. Everybody thought it was crazy for doing that.
Or eating crayons or something.
Well, guess what? Because you signed, now you understand why he signed that long-term deal. Because if you don't, you run the risk of getting killed. And that's what he did. It kept the league. Was it in UCF's best interest? Probably not. Nobody's going to argue with that. Fine. But it was in the best interest of the league. And now you're seeing the benefits. But what ESPN is doing here, and I think if people have followed Disney they've been affected by this whole pandemic as well. And I think what they're doing
go look at their theme park revenues and the cruise line too, and you'll see what we mean.
Well, and I think that plays a role in this because I think what Disney's done, and if I encourage people to on YouTube, John Skipper used to be the boss at ESPN, is no longer. He appeared on the Dan Le Batard show on Monday, and he did about 20-minute interview, kind of the behind the scenes of some of this stuff because he was involved in that whole Longhorn Network and all that stuff, and he had some great stuff. But here's the thing about ESPN and Disney. They are right now addressing, okay, what is most important properties on every form. For example, Disney, if you've noticed, in the entertainment side, has gone after Marvel movies because that's popular. That does big box office movies, and let's be honest, the movie industry's taken a hit because the theaters have been limited and all that. So
but they do make money off of streaming that stuff and writing new content.
And content on Disney Plus.
Right.
Now let's move this over to sports. The NFL was their number one priority. They took care of that. They got the package. They're going to get a better package in the NFL moving forward. They're going to have content on ESPN Plus.
They're going to get Super Bowls now.
They're going to get Super Bowls as a result.
That's the big one.
That's their number one, baby. Number two, you would argue right now what they're going after is college football. It's not, and I think it's all starting to come clear here because, Drew, you're asked, well, why is ESPN trying to move ahead on this? The reason they're moving quickly on this is they don't want this to go to the open market. They don't want the playoff to go to the open market. They want to know, before they agree on whatever the playoff will be, they want to know what they have in control. And right now what they have in control, they just got the SEC, which was a package they got for a lot of money. They're going to probably buy out CBS out of that sooner than later.
Haven't they bought out CBS altogether already? I know they got the Saturday 3:30 package.
They will, but they still have to wait a couple years.
Okay.
But so now they have the SEC, they have the ACC, they have the SEC network and the ACC network. They have got the American. Scrap the Big 12. You just took Oklahoma and Texas. Big 12 is gone. So Fox, what does Fox have left, really? Big 10, that's it.
The Big 10. Do they have the Pac? No, they don't have the Pac-12.
They have a portion of it, as far as them and ESPN share it.
Right. But ESPN also, if I'm not mistaken, Eric, they have that Big 10 Saturday noon Eastern slot, don't they?
Yeah, the Fox does, and ESPN gets some of the Big 10.
Fox has the noon slot?
Yeah, that's their big noon kickoff promotion. But ESPN gets some of the Big 10 games there. But anyway, so ESPN's trying to monopolize this. So they get the major conferences, you get the playoff package together, you pretty much undercut Fox and CBS, and you take them out of the game completely. That's the goal, the ultimate goal here. And part of that is by eliminating the Big 12, which now hey, if Fox wants the leftovers of the Big 12, good luck, but they're not going to get a lot of money as that Big 12s. And if you're Fox and CBS, then why would you go after that at this point when there's no value to it without Oklahoma and Texas? That's the business side of this. And you mentioned it. ESPN, obviously, they have the American under control. So you bring some of these Big 12 teams over here, and I think everybody would make a little bit more money, and the American prospers to be the 5th strongest conference. And guess what? That's a P5.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if, ESPN kind of overpays a little bit to the American to kind of boost it up a little bit because, they're doing a lot with this too. So, I mean, I think the American has a lot to gain from this. Not much risk at this point because you pretty much have the pick of the litter.
You can just sit back now and just relax.
I mean, as the ship sinks, you'd be like, we want you, not you, not you. And what's their option? The Mountain West with the worst television contract in the FBS,
right?
The Conference USA. You want to be stuck with Florida International, the Sun Belt? No, they're going to take whatever the American gives them at this point because they know there's no future in the Big 12.
Well, and you mentioned the Sun Belt. Who owns right now the Sun Belt content?
They just signed a big contract.
And they just
with
signed an
ESPN.
extension.
Exactly. Who owns, for example, now they just got, ESPN is getting every conference. The next conference I would be worried about, the Mountain West. If I'm a Mountain West member, I'm worried because you look at what the ESPN is trying to do here. If they're successful and getting, let's say, a couple of the Big 12 teams, like how many, let's say they get to 14, and maybe they get 2 or 3 from the Big 12. You know that the next target will likely be from the Mountain West. And it's probably that team in Boise in particular they're going to go after, the big fish out of the Mountain West, and pluck them over.
Who, by the way, already has a sweetheart deal with ESPN.
Well, here's the problem with Boise State, and then because they flirted this past year about moving over to the American because the Mountain West television deal just really is terrible.
Yeah,
they have no place to put their other sports. They tried, they couldn't find a home.
So hold that thought.
ESPN would actually have to help out with that.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, Eric. I think you probably remember this. The emails that came out from that FOIA request about Boise State, was Boise trying to get all their sports to the American, and the American only wanted football, or was it the other way around? I can't remember.
I think that was kind of where they were trying to figure out. I don't think we ever got a clear answer on that, whether it was just going to be one sport or not. I think there were at the time. I think the thinking was maybe football only for now, but it wasn't totally clear.
The news out of Boise said it was football only, and they were looking for a landing spot for their other stuff.
Right, and that was the thing. Could they find a landing spot?
They couldn't.
Right.
They tried. Yeah. It wasn't like the last time where they were able to convince the Big West to do it. Big West just doesn't have the appetite right now, and it just didn't work out.
Right. Although the Big West only has 11 schools right now.
But depending on who you get from the Big 12, let's say you get a Texas Tech to come to the American, all bets are off at that point. Yeah. As far as possibly adding all these sports for Boise to the American. Who knows where this could go? I mean, this is just the beginning. This is just the tip of the iceberg.
If you make the payouts big enough, you can stretch that. I mean, at $7 million, which is actually, it's a little under 7, that's not enough to stretch that far. So obviously the ESPN's going to have to sweeten the pot.
Well, I think they will. I think you've mentioned the number. We've been talking on the group chat. I think the magic number is 15.
Magic number is 15, but I think if they get to 16 members and they're able to pull that off, I think it'll go up a little bit closer to 20.
Well, let me ask you though, based on what? I'm gonna let me play devil's advocate here. Based on what?
Well, you look at
that's a nearly threefold increase. What is, and by the way, I'll reference the article that I wrote. The other 8 are only worth the same as the American.
Well, so if you combine them both, you're at 16. So because you say something, I believe what was it, the Athletic or CBS said something down the lines of maybe $9 million, maybe. So let's take the top end of that. So you add the 9, you have the 7, you have 16. To help the American make these moves, ESPN's gonna have to sweeten the pot a little bit. They're gonna have to. That brings
make everybody happy.
Make everybody happy. You know there's going to be an increase in expenses and with travel and everything, and to relock down the contract, you can't just add 1 + 1. It's going to have to be 1 + 1 = 3. You're going to have to find a way to add a little bit more to it sweeten the pot. And the thing is, you look at the other conferences and the money they're making. 20 actually for a 16 team that they would basically call the fifth power conference is not an outlandish amount. I mean, the ACC's number is below market value because they're stuck in a bad deal for a little while.
What's the ACC number at?
I'm looking that up right now.
Yeah.
I'll let Jeff get the exact number.
Here's the point. Even if, let's say, they get to 20, that is still a cheaper deal for ESPN than, say, trying to renew a deal with the Big 12 with Oklahoma and Texas, which probably was in the 40 million range, right?
Exactly. I believe it was in the mid 30s with ESPN. So when you look at it that way, going to the 20 isn't really a headache for ESPN. It gives a little bit of a softer landing for the Big 12 schools that are going to have to make a major adjustment in how they operate.
The ACC, according to the News Observer, this is as of May 21st, 2021, average payout per school is $32.3 million. That does not count Notre Dame, by the way.
And when you compare that to the SEC and the Big Ten, it's way behind.
It's basically half.
Yeah, so they're stuck in that deal for another decade and a half, basically.
Yeah.
But here, if you're a current American Conference member, if you're UCF, you're going from making 7 to 10 to possibly
7 or less. They're not making anywhere.
No. The current contract from what we've been able to glean, and we have nothing backing this. It averages $7 million a year.
Okay.
But it steps up. But it's not. You're the schools aren't getting paid $7 million every year.
It's backloaded,
it steps up.
I believe.
More backloaded.
It's more backloaded. So it ends with about $10 million a year.
All right, so let's go with 7. That's fine. Let's go with 7. Let's go with, if they get bumped up to 15 to 20, right? 15 to 20. Would you agree that's the ballpark, right? Whether you're too optimistic, you think it's 20 is legit, or you think 15 is more, whatever.
I think that's a fair range.
Right? 15 to 20. You're doubling how much money you're making.
At least
doubling, at least.
20 is almost triple.
And ESPN's doing it because they're going to get more content, more markets to now have to subscribe to ESPN Plus. You get more quality. I think that would be a huge win from a UCF standpoint. Like, UCF's not going to get 15 to 20 million, to me, any other scenario than the one we just played out. Like, if you're UCF, first of all, you just wait and see how everything plays out.
This is my next question, and hold that thought out, because I want to ask the both of you. You're UCF right now. You're Terry Mohajir and President Cartwright. What do you do right now? Because obviously, the whole week we've been seeing people say, "Oh, we can't wait till we get that invitation to replace Texas and Oklahoma in the Big 12." Because I'm looking at that, I'm saying, no. You do not want to jump on that sinking Titanic.
That's the point.
So what do you do, Eric? We'll start with you. What do you do?
Yeah, I mean, that's the worst fear that I have on this is you jump to that deal, and then 2 years later the league blows up. Then what? What happens? What happens to you? You're done. You're in an island.
It's worse than what happened to the Big East.
Correct. So what you have to do is sit back and wait until this all plays out. Because here's the thing. The Big 12 is the one that's desperate. They're gonna have to sort it. And let's be real. I think these 8 schools, they're gonna say everything publicly about their standing together and everything. Secretly, they're gonna be trying to get their own deal. You let all that play out, and what you don't want to do is get caught in a situation that you're going to regret 2-3 years later, where you jump in, because the Big 12 I don't think this league is going to exist past 2025. There's no evidence of this right now of any confidence that this will exist past 2025. Whereas the league you're still in, this league's going to exist one way or the other through 2030,
and it's on an upward trajectory.
And you're on the network. You're on the network that's going to control where you want to be. If you're a football, right? You want to make the playoffs. This is the network you're going to have to be in. All right, unless you're the Big Ten.
Your College Game Day is not going to come to campus if you're on Fox.
No, and trust me, you don't want an FS. I mean, you don't want UCF Texas Tech on an FS1. You're going to be complaining about that. You know it deep down inside. The only team that can get away with not being on ESPN is the Big Ten, with Ohio State in particular.
Right.
And who knows how long that'll last? Who knows? But if you're UCF, I would not talk to anybody right now. I would not talk to Bob Bowlsby. I would not take any phone calls until
I wouldn't take a single phone call from Irving, Texas, unless it was from the American's office, and I knew it was Mike Oresco.
Right, Drew. Am I right on that?
Oh, I agree. I mean, the only way the Big 12 could pull anything off is you let the contract right out, and you have to basically create a new contract with a grant of rights with predetermined guarantees of payouts. I mean, that's complicated, and I don't see them being able to pull that off and convincing schools like a UCF that it's going to work, because I mean, that's a Hail Mary play. You know, granted, we've seen Hail Marys work, but I mean, how often does this not work? I mean, their back is truly against the wall. If I'm Terry Mohajir and President Cartwright, you know what I keep doing? Exactly what I have been doing, which is focusing on the school, getting games scheduled, and planning for this fall, because all this other political BS that's going on right now is only going to distract from what you should be worrying about, because there's nothing to worry about. Let the commissioner do his job and focus on that. When it's time to get involved, he'll call you.
Right. And in fact, if I'm Terry Mohajir, if I'm Gus Malzahn, you're going to be doing media days here. UCF's doing media day next week. The American Conference media days next week, by the way, which will be fun.
Oh, yeah.
I'm UCF. I say nothing. I know nothing. I say nothing. You become as boring as you possibly can. You say nothing. You do not incriminate yourself.
The lawyers are involved now.
Oh yeah,
they're involved,
and that's the thing we got it that I think the American has to be very careful of.
Just keep your head down.
Keep your head down. Just, hey, we're proud members of the American. We appreciate all that the conference has done for us, and we look forward to a competitive 2021 football season.
And the lawyers, they're all,
American.
at the end of the day, what's going to happen here? I think everybody's going to come down to a settlement. I don't believe Texas and Oklahoma is going to have to wait till 2025 to play in the SEC. I believe they're going to be playing by 2022. And they're going to figure out
4 years of awkward. That's a long 4 years of awkward right there.
What they're going to do is they're going to pay off whatever they got to pay off, and that's how all this is going to play out, where everybody comes to some financial terms. Bob Bowlsby will get to be the intern probably on the Paul Feinbaum show. He'll work it out. And, and Mike Oresco will get a weekly appearance on the Feinbaum show probably. And maybe, who knows, maybe the American Network on ESPN.
Let me ask you, guys, one more thing before we...
I want an American Network on ESPN. I want that.
We have one.
Not the digital one. I mean, like its own channel. I want that. We should have that. If we go to 16, we should have that.
Maybe we'll flip ESPN News over to that. They were saying that they were going to undo ESPN News into that, right? So, all right. Let me ask you guys one more thing. The playoff. The conventional wisdom, based on everything that I've been reading from all over the place, is that this move by Texas and Oklahoma, and now what the Big 12 is doing, is going to delay delay or possibly alter the implementation of a 12-team playoff. My question to both of you, and Eric, I think you've been following this the closely, if I'm not mistaken, but Drew, I want to give you credit as well. Is it my thing is, with UCF obviously probably most likely staying in the American, are we still going to have 12 when this gets done?
Yeah, you'll probably get 12, but I don't think we were ever going to get it. We're not going to get it in 2023, but we would never
get it in 2025.
Probably. And that's what Drew, I'm going to defer to you because you've been on top of this a lot better than a lot of the college media that's jumped the gun on a lot of this coverage of the playoff thing. I never believed for a second this was going to start in 2023. And I
never did either. I never believed it was going to be in 2023. There's too many moving parts.
Exactly.
And this only makes it even less likely. And the truth is, the way it's set up, you can leave it as 12 because the SEC's focus was on the at-large teams. They want that, and they like the idea of the conference champions. So the big shift can go from 6 to 5. That's the big change. You still have obviously your 1 through 6.
6 to 5. You mean 6 to 5 conference champions?
Championships. That's the big shift that can happen. I don't think there's actually going to be any other change fundamentally from what we've seen so far as the CFP. But the truth was, I thought it was going to run all the way through the end of the contract because of how much stuff has to be done just to get it off the ground without this nonsense. If there's litigation, this thing you hit the pause button. But right. This requires a brand new media deal, completely from scratch. You got to get all the bowls, to play ball. and not all of them have said, yeah, we're in for this new system, such like the Big Ten has not committed to this new system that would force them to get away from the January 1, 2 p.m. slot that they so covet. So there's still a lot of moving parts. There's going to be a lot of negotiations. And until this mess just gets settled, I can't see the CFP going forward. And they have time. They're not rushed. So they have a lot of time and a lot of ability to delay getting this off the ground.
Yeah, you have to kind of figure out what conferences, where everybody stands conference-wise before you even come up with a playoff format. And who knows how big this goes? How crazy could this get? Does the Big Ten and Pac-12, for example, merge? Some people have suggested that. Jay Billis. But is it? Because some people. Yes. No, I disagree with you. I disagree because who's to say that these big conferences decide, you know what? Let's go with the NFL model. Let's just create our own playoff. Let's go with our 30 teams in the conference. We have our own playoff and screw everybody else. Who knows? I'm not saying that's going to happen.
The only people who are going to like that are the lawyers who are going to have to unwind all of it.
Well, they can sue all they want, but I mean, listen.
There's a lot to work out there.
I'm not saying this.
You thought that the CFP contract was going to be tough to untangle.
I'm just telling you, at one point, for all you historians, the NAIA once ruled college sports. And you know what happened one day? All the schools said, screw you. We're ditching you. And I think what we're seeing here is the NCAA is dead. The NCAA is dead. They're irrelevant. And I do question how far this could go. Who's to say that the SEC doesn't go to 20? Who's to say that the ACC doesn't merge? Who knows? I'm not saying that's going to happen, but everything's on the table right now. Everything's on the table from all of that. And so until all of that sorts itself out, you can't come up with a playoff format until you know. So I think we're going to need the next couple of years, 2 to 3 years, to figure out what these conferences look like. And then to Drew's point, then you can kind of finalize the playoff. And here's the thing. If ESPN ends up, let's say, owning the ACC, the SEC, the American, a half of the Big Ten, maybe a piece of the Pac-12, if not the whole thing, and, the American, guess who's going to keep the playoff? It's them, because if you're Fox and CBS, you have no motive to get it because you don't own any of the conferences. That's what's going on here. That's the big picture here, is try to get as many conferences in, then you have the playoff, then everybody gets the money. That's the goal.
I don't know if I agree with. Oh, yeah, I don't know if I agree with your sentiment that the other networks wouldn't be interested in owning the playoff. I mean, it wasn't all that long ago that Fox aired no college football except for the BCS bowls, and ESPN took that from the outright.
But the difference now is, if all the conferences are under the ESPN umbrella, they're not going to go against ESPN. So the conferences are going to tell the playoff committee, yeah, we're going to sign over here, and we're not going to go to a Fox. I'm telling you, ESPN is not going to make the mistake. And I've heard from many ESPN people over the years, the biggest mistake they regret is they let the NCAA tournament in men's basketball go. They let it go to CBS. They try to get it back. And what CBS did to fend them off is they joined with Turner to keep the men's tournament. So now ESPN is stuck with the women's tournament. And I'm sorry that offends some people, but trust me, if ESPN could dump the women's tournament for the men, they would do it in 2 seconds. I don't think they're going to allow that to happen with football. I really don't. And I think that what some of these actions is a result of that. This is probably the second or third most important property for ESPN. The NFL's number one because it's the NFL. And then the debate is college football or the NBA. Those are the two to be content that they're going to control. And college football obviously dominates the numbers. I would be shocked. There is no way that any of the other, because here's the other thing. Fox just spent a ton of money to keep the NFL. Fox just spent a ton of money to keep baseball. You look at NBC, they have a ton of money into the Olympics. They just spent a ton of money on the NFL. CBS just spent a ton of money on the NFL. They're not going to be able to just blow up the money for a college football playoff.
So as we head to a break, what fresh hell might await us tomorrow? I mean, the Big 12. Somebody had. I want to get this one little quote. I forget who said this earlier. And so I do apologize, but I heard a great saying that the whole point about the nuclear option, which going back to the Big 12, that seems to be what they're doing right now. The whole point about the nuclear option is you're not supposed to use it. You know, you're supposed to keep it in your back pocket, but you're not really supposed to use it. They are using it in going after ESPN, and this is going to get messy. It's going to get nasty.
Yep.
These are these Texas guys, man. They do not play nice. So
They don't until they get their own deal. They'll drop it though once they get their own deal.
So
and that's gonna be the
when the conference fails, and at this point it will fail.
Well,
man, what happens with the bowl system? You know, there's so many.
I'm not worried about that. We'll figure that. Well, all right. This really is the last thing, real quick, and I want this to be like lightning quick answers. What's the next domino to fall? Drew, I want to start with you. What's the next domino to fall?
Next domino to fall is going to be the lawsuit between Oklahoma, Texas, and the Big 12 over the grant of rights.
Okay. Eric?
That's a good bet from Drew. If I have to go outside the board, I'm going to say somebody from that Big 8 is going to bolt.
Who?
Bolt. May not be the American. I think a West Virginia to the ACC or Kansas will bolt. I think somebody's bolting.
Kansas to where?
I'm going to say Big 10. I've been saying Big 10 for a while. I think the Pac-12 is still in play, but I think Big 10. I think they're going to bolt, and that's going to be what's going to happen
all right.
there.
Okay. I like it. All right. Bryson Turner informs us that the SEC presidents are going to meet tomorrow.
Yes, where they're going to be like, oh, really? We could get Texas and Oklahoma? We didn't know. That's awesome.
Hey, guys, I just got this letter in the mail. It's from Texas and Oklahoma.
Texas A&M.
Texas A&M's okay with it.
They're asking for membership in the A&M. Do you know anything about this? No, we're good. Wait a minute. I got a phone call here. What's that? Oh, you want us to vote for that? Oh, okay. Yeah, so we're in favor of it. Whatever it is, yeah.
Tell them we'll invite them for dinner. We'll show them around.
Yeah.
Send them a fruit
Show
basket.
them around Hoover. Hey, this is Hoover, Alabama. It's great hotels here.
You know, I've been to Hoover, Alabama.
There's a Motel 6.
I've been to Alabama a lot.
All right, we got to take a break. When we get back, we're going to talk more UCF stuff, including football scheduling, and a little bit more when we get back. It's Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Don't go away.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.
All right, welcome back to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Jeff Sharon, Eric Lopez, and Andrew Glukov with you here. And we're real quick bringing in, it's time for a little Black and Gold Banneret Olympic update with Bryson Turner, who is in the house following everything.
We should have music behind
We have the music. Here it is. Bryson Turner in the house talking a little Olympics and our UCF and UCF alumni in the Olympics in this very first week. Bryson, I want to start off by talking about the big dog, Phil Dalhausser. He and Nick Lucena are now 2-1 in pool play. What's the latest with Phil?
All right. Well, they just finished their game earlier as we're recording this. They just finished their game against Argentinian duo Julian Azad and Nicolas Capagrosso. Set number one, it was a close one, but Dalhausser and Lucena won 21-19. Then they fell back a little bit. The commentators were talking about how the U.S., which was kind of letting Argentina get away with too much in the second set. And so in the second set, they lost 21-18. But then in the third set, Dalhausser and Lucena just went off, getting on a run that went, I think, like 5, 6, 7 points straight. And they won the third set 15-6. So it's 15-6.
Yeah.
So as far as statistics goes, they got 10 digs, 3 blocks. They were 34 of 51 on attacks. And and so now basically they have secured a advancement to something. The thing is that we don't know where yet. The way that the tournament works is that the top 2 teams immediately move on to the knockout round, while the third place team goes into something called the lucky losers, which is an entirely different thing. It has its own stuff. and we just need to see if they're going to go there, and if they're going to go there, we'll figure that out. The point is, though, is that they're not eliminated. Argentina's eliminated.
Okay.
So, so Dahlhauser is going to be moving on, and I will keep everybody updated on my Twitter at It's Bryson Turner. The B and T are capitalized on what's next for them as far as their next matches.
All right. Women's rugby. We talked about Kristen Thomas, 2016 graduate of UCF, and she scored USA's first try of the Olympic tournament. Is that right today?
Yes, she did. I was very glad to see her make a mark very early. It was a very low-scoring first half. I'll tell you what. This is one of the first times I've watched rugby live, and it's quick. It was
Those games move, man. It's actually pretty fun to watch. It's a really good spectator sport.
It's almost like it's really like a combination of American football and soccer, really. It's like it has the same ticking clock element that soccer does, where, the clock keeps moving forward no matter what, and then they just tack on stoppage time at the end. And the halves are really short too, just 7 minutes. So each game moves on lightning quick. But as far as the first half, it was very low scoring. Kristen Thomas, like we said, got the first try about 4 minutes and 57 seconds in. Kristen Thomas got that first try, and she was only in the game for 6 minutes because as soon as she scored, basically like 30 seconds after she scored, she was subbed out. So I'm guessing the head coach wanted to just get some other people a chance to get out there. But for the brief time that Thomas was in the game, for about a quarter of the game, she got the USA their first try. And then as far as the team itself, in the second half, they went off in the second half, and they managed to beat China 28-14.
All right.
They will be back at 5 a.m. Eastern this morning, which I'm guessing is just the same day for them in Tokyo, and to play Japan. So if anyone's that game will probably be over as soon as this episode posts. So check on my Twitter to see how that went.
Aline Reyes did not play in pool play for the Brazilian women's soccer team. I don't know if it's likely that we'll see her in the medal round, though.
Probably not. It's a knockout
probably
round
not,
at
right?
that point.
Yeah.
She's going to be the backup. Remember, Jeff, in Rio, she started the one game, the last game.
Yeah, she started the third and final pool play game, but Brazil had won their first two in 2016.
So they had everything locked up.
So pool play that game essentially didn't matter. So it's unless an injury, God forbid, an injury occurs to somebody,
right.
We're probably not going to see Aline Reyes on the field for Brazil, although if they go on to medal, she will get a medal because she is
correct. That is significant.
On the team.
That is,
and then also one other thing, Maddie Rogers, the 87 kilogram weightlifter, class of 2020, she competes August the 2nd. That is, what day is that? That's Monday. Okay, so you'll likely see her if you're a night owl, late Sunday, early Monday morning, or way early Monday morning. And then we're also looking at who else? Anything on Chelsea Wolf, the BMX alternate. Bryson, I don't think she's officially competing yet. BMX is supposed to be tomorrow, Thursday the 29th, and then Friday the 30th. Is that right?
That is correct. Yeah, she's also an alternate. So I don't know if she's competing or not. Just like how Aline was a alternate like before that they expanded the roster to 22 teams. So I'll keep everybody updated as far as if she is going to compete, if she isn't. But if she is going to compete, then yeah, it'll be on those days.
All right.
So Aline,
so we'll leave it there. Bryson Turner following,
don't forget the ref Robinson.
Oh, that's right. I can't forget Stevie Anderson.
Yeah, I saw him the other night. He teed up one of the Slovenian players against Argentina. It was not Luka Doncic. It was not.
No, I will say this though, Eric. Okay, the rule changes that are coming to the NBA regarding non-basketball moves. Did you hear about this?
Yes.
Okay, so the NBA is going to
James Harden rule, basically.
Yeah, basically it's the James Harden rule where they're going to crack down on players performing what they're calling non-basketball moves in order to draw fouls. If I'm not mistaken, that's what that is. And part of that, as I've interpreted it, Eric, is a nod to FIBA and the international game, where they don't take that mess. And the United States men's team is finding that out in a very difficult way right now. That international officials,
nobody
they do not fall for flopping. They do not fall for the kind of easy calls that they get in the NBA. Is that right?
I don't know if I'm going to give FIBA the credit. I'm just going to say people are sick and tired of James Harden getting
what
away
I'm
with
saying is maybe we can give UCF graduate Steve Anderson for some credit for saying, hey, this is how basketball really should be officiated, and the NBA saying, you know what, Steve, you're right.
I do want to actually talk to him, because why isn't he like he's officiating international here in the Olympics? Should he not be I'm wondering what can he get to the NBA to be an NBA ref?
Well, he was in the NBA.
Right. So why is he still?
He's not now. I don't know why. I mean, I don't know how officiate. I mean, I know he still does a lot of. He was doing college games when we were students.
Right.
I remember he was doing some games.
Yeah, we got to get him on the show at some point.
Right. Yeah.
Figure out that
I would love to get Stevie on. I think that it would be so interesting to hear from him and to learn what that's all about. Anyway, Bryson Turner, following the Olympics. It's Bryson Turner on Twitter. Bryson, thanks for joining us here and giving us a little update.
Not a problem. Just be sure to stay tuned to my Twitter at It's Bryson Turner. The B and T are capitalized for all your Olympic update needs.
Live. He's not going to tape delay the tweets either.
That's right.
Live results.
My man here is up at night giving you, UCF fans, all the latest on UCF's Olympians as they move through Tokyo 2021. All right.
He doesn't sleep. For you.
Yeah.
Insomnia is fun. Yeah.
Listen, Bryson, you're young still. Enjoy it while you can.
Yeah, remember, sleep is for the weak. Next.
Right.
The story of my life. All right,
we'll be right back. Stick around. This is the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Back after this. Back here on the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast, Jeff, Drew, and Eric. By the way, Dennis Dodd has dropped a column that we were anxiously anticipating about regarding the Big 12 accusing ESPN of conspiring with the American Athletic Conference to pull, quote, 3 to 5 teams over. In addition to the letter that we talked about, this is according to Dennis Dodd of CBS. Bob Bowlsby, the commissioner of the Big 12, says that ESPN has actively engaged the American to pursue 3 to 5 Big 12 members to join the league, suggesting it would be rewarded with, quote, future television proceeds. And then Bowlsby also tells CBS Sports that ESPN's actions are equal to, quote, tortious interference, end quote, according to, so for you lawyers out there, I'm sure that's a fun phrase you like to hear. Let's see. There are two this is Bowlsby speaking. There are 2 documents that govern our members. One is the bylaws, and the other is the grant of rights. The bylaws go for 99 years. The grant of rights go until 24-25. ESPN has been behind these moves every step of the way. He added, I have every expectation that Oklahoma and Texas will do whatever they can to not meet their contractual obligations. That's what they've done so far. One of the ways the 2 schools and ESPN will seek to absolve themselves of the obligation is to destabilize the league and cause an implosion of the other 8 members. I am absolutely certain ESPN employees have discussed and provided incentives for at least one conference to raid 3 to 5 members from the Big 12, Bowlsby goes on. In doing so, they are prepared to reward them with future television proceeds. If the conference goes away as an entity, Texas and Oklahoma could be relieved from their exit obligations. Those obligations at this time would include the payment of $70 to $80 million, 2 full years of revenue per school, and leaving their media rights with the Big 12. We're not just going to sit still and let somebody who is supposed to be our partner collaborate and disrupt our business. I know with certainty that they are doing it relative to one conference. I suspect they have done the same thing in moving Texas and Oklahoma to the SEC. ESPN's response, Eric Lopez.
These claims have no merit. And I quote.
That's literally what ESPN's public response was. These claims have no merit. End of discussion.
And the American has said that they have no comment tonight.
The American has no comment.
Do you think Mike goes after Bowlsby next week at media days? He tends to kind of sometimes talk too much, as
No.
we know.
I'm sure Chuck and the boys are like, listen, Mike,
No drinking for you tonight.
let's keep it. No. Mike, let's keep it. Let's keep it on the DL. All right, everybody, be cool. And
You know
we'll
why
get-
Bowlsby's
we'll
really
get to
mad?
this just fine.
No, you can't have a lesser conference do better than us. No.
Heaven forbid. Right.
But I like
Heaven
that.
forbid this. Heaven forbid this Franken League come in and steal our. Wait a second. Don't you remember that you're the Big Eight plus the Southwest Conference?
No. I do
Oops.
like to point out that future television proceeds, you know what that means? Oh, you've triggered your renegotiation. And thus, future, you've reset at a new amount. That's
Yeah.
all that means. So, yeah, congrats. All it means is you'll be able to renegotiate and make more money. You know how contracts normally handle new membership.
All right. Well, back a little closer to home. Let's talk about what's going on with UCF. There was actually some actual UCF news. It is official, ladies and gentlemen. UCF and UF, University of Florida, have officially agreed to a 3-game series. 2020. Here they actually gave us dates, which I think is actually the newsworthy stuff here. October 5th, 2024 at Florida Field. September 14th, 2030 at the Bounce House, and that's confirmed at the Bounce House. It's not in Camping World. It's on campus. And September 3rd, 2033, once again at Florida Field. And then UCF also announced another scheduling deal with a Power 5 conference opponent. That would be the Maryland Terrapins of the Big Ten. 2025, August 30th at Maryland Stadium in College Park. And September 9th, 2028 at the Bounce House in Orlando. This is not the first time that these two squads have gotten together. They played back-to-back years before. 2016, UCF played Maryland at UCF. That was Mackenzie Milton's very first start. You remember that?
It was a rough first start.
It was a rough first start, but the game went to double. But the game went, as Mackenzie said, to a rather lippy respondent to that. By the way, A+ job by KZ of responding on Twitter. But that was his very first start. Double overtime loss at home, and then after the hurricane, actually was that Eric? Correct me if I'm wrong. 27.
Yeah, that was the first game for UCF after the hurricane.
That was the first game after the hurricane, right?
Those
In College
27
Park.
days.
In College Park, and UCF beat Maryland handily, 38-10, in 2017. So
And that was the same Maryland team that beat Texas the week before.
Oh yes, that's right.
Yeah, it was funny. I was there at that game. I covered that game. Good state, great campus, nice stadium. Nobody cares about football over there. They're a basketball school.
Right.
That was right around the time, too. They were still getting used to now moving to the Big Ten from the ACC.
Yeah.
But I will never forget that.
People around there being like, when do we play Duke? You know?
Right. But I remember there, UCF's dominating the second half of the game, and I remember Nebraska took a bad loss to somebody at home. I forget. It might have been like an Arkansas State, maybe. I don't know. You have to look back on that.
I forget. Yeah.
But and I remember
State.
it might have
Troy.
been something like
Might have been Troy. I think. Yeah.
It might have been somebody like that. And I remember that watching that in the press box, and I'm like, uh-oh. Meanwhile, I'm seeing Scott Frost and UCF celebrate. And I remember, Jeff, you and I did a podcast the following week, and I think there were starting to be some sprinkles about Frost in Nebraska. And you asked me about
it was even worse in Arkansas State. It was Northern Illinois.
That's right. Matt, right. And I'm like, uh-oh. This
at home in Lincoln.
Yes. Happened the
Well,
same
they don't play
day.
those schools away.
No.
Right. And I remember we discussed that in the following week's podcast. And you're like, are you concerned that Frost might leave? And I'm like, yes, I am. So
Yeah. When Mike Riley was the coach at the time at Nebraska.
it's good
Well,
time.
interestingly enough, they won. Nebraska won the next two, and then they played back-to-back Wisconsin and Ohio State and got bombed by both of them, beat Purdue by 1, and then lost their last 4. And that was it. So, yeah. All right, so UCF, I'm looking at future football schedules. All of a sudden, things are shaking out. This year's worked out okay. 2022 has worked out okay. 2023, we still got 2 spots open. 2024, There's still one spot, although that's likely you.
Wait, hold on. We got to break. Dennis Dodd now just tweeted. I got it right. That the Big 12 now believes that the American is attempting to take all 8 members.
Are you serious?
No, I just tweeted this.
Stop this. No, you're joking me.
He's not.
He is not. Bob Bowlsby Bob Bowlsby's drinking. Can somebody check what Bob Bowlsby's drinking? He cannot be in a good place right now. He is not in a good mental place.
Someone needs to get to Bob Bowlsby right now. Say, Bob, hang up the phone.
Let Baylor stay in Conference USA.
Wait, now I'm looking at Dodd's Twitter feed. I don't see that. Is it a reply?
It just popped up here. I'm just gonna DM it to the group chat here. You're getting live behind the scenes here, folks. On the Banneret.
This stuff is breaking.
Yeah,
on the pod.
I'm looking at it right now.
So here's my question. How did this go from 3 to 5 to 8 all of a sudden in a couple of hours? Like, did Bob Bowlsby just forget to tell him, hey, by the way, Dennis, let me call you back?
I think Bob's having a rough night.
I think so. Somebody needs to check on him.
Yeah.
Send a wellness check.
Somebody check on Bob.
I do kind of agree with Drew. I mean.
Oh, I see it. Okay.
Okay,
so this is just now he tweets this. The Big 12. Okay, again, I'm going to read. Eric, you're right, and I'm going to read this for emphasis. This is Dennis Dodd, CBS. Big 12 now believes the American is attempting to take all 8 remaining members. Earlier reports said 3 to 5 Big 12 members were solicited. Bob Bowlsby told CBS Sports. Story up soon. Dennis is having himself a busy night.
Yeah, because Bob Bowlsby keeps calling him.
Probably. How the hell do you make a 19-team conference work? It's basically 2 different leagues rolled into one.
I don't care. I'm just loving this.
Well, here's my theory on that. Is it one of those where you're inviting everybody and see who takes it?
I mean, as I said, I think
I don't think all 8 take it, but
you want to have an even number. You 3, 5, 7. Worst case 1.
Well, you're assuming that they would stop it. Like you said, that would get them to what, 19? You're assuming they would stop. I think they would. I'm telling you, they're going to add somebody else from another conference if they get to that point.
Well, they have to. I mean, you're not going to stick at 19. That's come on, it's a prime number.
Why? What a prime number? What Eric was just talking about how he would not be surprised if the SEC went to 20. Are we serious?
I'm telling you
that the American is going to be the first 20-team power conference, 20-team super conference.
I'm telling you.
Are we staring this in the face right now, gentlemen, on Wednesday, July 28th, 2021 at 11:50 Eastern? Oh my God.
I would not dismiss it at all. I'm telling you, I think a lot of these conferences are looking at the NFL. I mean, we could see an NFL model here within the next decade. I really do believe that.
Oh my God, this is just too good to believe.
I mean, this is like face palm words.
Well, imagine because you both don't believe Baylor would come to the American. Clearly this tells me.
No. That's not what we said.
That's not what we said.
We didn't say anything about Baylor coming to America. It's we don't want Baylor coming to the American.
Well, guess what? They're coming.
So many skeletons in the closet.
Well, they're coming, boys. They're coming, baby. Fiesta Bowl rematch. Here we go. Payback, baby. They're going to want payback for the Fiesta Bowl.
Oh, man.
I think they're all going to want payback.
This, from a selfish standpoint, by the way, I know nobody cares about this, but I do. But if this happens where they get the majority of those Big 8 teams, the basketball conference is going to be freaking awesome.
Basketball is going to be wild.
You're taking Kansas.
Be great.
You've got one of the top programs in the country. Makes up for UConn real quick.
Eric, you better start brushing up on your Big 12 softball.
Well, softball would be, remember, there's a certain Big 12 schools that don't play softball. TCU does not play softball. Kansas State does not play softball. There's one other, West Virginia does not play softball. So the only ones that would play is Iowa State, Oklahoma State, Baylor, Kansas. Who am I missing here? You guys have the list there. Kansas State doesn't play. Texas Tech does play. The Big 12 is the number 3 softball conference. You put that to the American, you can make the argument that the American now becomes the number 3 conference in softball behind football, behind obviously the SEC and the Pac-12. And Jeff, think about the baseball aspect of this.
Baseball is going to be great.
Baseball's already top 5 without these teams. You could argue the American could become maybe the top 3 conference in baseball if you add just some of these teams like a TCU and a Baylor, etc.
Maybe as part of the agreement for all this, that ESPN goes to bat to help the American get autonomy status.
Absolutely, that's got to be a part of this. No.
Well, remember, Oresco has come out publicly and said that one of his goals, this was after the 12-team playoff dropped, was one of his goals was to achieve autonomy status for the American, and he had petitioned the other conferences about that. Well. But
I do agree with you.
How the tables have turned.
I do believe Bob Bowlsby, though, right now is not in a good mindset. So I would take I would say he's probably I wouldn't be surprised in the next 24 hours he accuses, that the American's going to take everybody in the Mountain West too.
He's going to accuse Mike Oresco of being the second gunman on the grassy knoll.
True. He's going to say that
they are in Dallas.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, man. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to ruin the schedule, but this just literally happened as we're recording, and this is kind of wild.
Yeah, this has been one heck of a man. Guys, I'll tell you.
Come on, we're going off the cuff. This is beautiful. Chaos.
I should note, Big 12 very good in volleyball too. Baylor was a national semifinalist.
See, now you want Baylor in now.
No. They won a basketball championship, and I still don't want them.
I don't want.
Well, who else? I mean, who else brings value volleyball wise? I mean, obviously Texas is not a part of this, but you said Baylor. Obviously, that jumps to mind. Who else?
Hang on, and I'll tell you.
We're breaking it sport by sport.
I guess the fact that you have to look.
Kansas State actually pretty decent in volleyball. West Virginia pretty decent. Kansas is usually better than they have been of late. Some of your upper Midwest schools, Iowa State's actually pretty good every now and then. That's about it. So, but man, I'll tell you, what a day it's been. All right, can we get back to the football schedule thing, because we got to talk about.
Wait, so Dennis Dodd just deleted that tweet now. So I don't know.
He did.
So I don't know. Maybe
Dennis, come on.
Maybe he's the one that's been drinking, or maybe they're both drinking. I don't know what's happening, but. Apparently, the American wants the Big 12.
I haven't seen it deleted yet.
I still see it.
Okay, do you?
I still see it. Yeah.
All right, if you say so.
That thing's been quote tweeted 160 times and counting in the last 10 minets.
I may have been one of them. Guilty.
All right, go ahead. We got scheduled stuff.
Okay. All right. So let's analyze the schedule. We all of a sudden we got five more non-conference games on the schedule now, officially now in the span of a week. The schedule is starting to fill out. Now we have some gaps in 2023, two of them specifically. 2024, UCF opens at BYU, then home for Liberty. The Florida game, of course, is October the 5th. I think there's still room for an FCS there, Drew, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's always a safe fill-in, is an FCS.
Yeah, although it would be later than usually we play FCS in the opening weekend. The opening weekend is BYU that year.
Right, and there's times like in 2017, UCF was supposed to play Maine at the end of September. So, I mean, occasionally it kind of goes a little wonky, but usually you get your out-of-conference out early. It's just 2024 is just going to be a weird setup. I mean, you could still have, September 14th. You could have, an FCS game at this point.
I want to talk about 2023 real quick, because you have September 9th at Boise. That leaves the second open, and then the BYU game is on Veterans Day, 11/11. So one more spot for something there. You have one spot open in 2025, although that would likely be the first Saturday in September, because 8:30 you're at Maryland, 9:13 you're at Florida, or you're home for Florida Atlantic. And then 27 you have one game, 28 one game, 30 one game, and 33 one game. So there are really right now, I guess we're saying here, FCS notwithstanding, Bethune, FAMU, whatever. We're looking at two more spots one more spot to fill in 2023. That's it, I think, right?
Yeah, one more spot in 2023, and then you can fill the last.
And then you're scheduling. FCS. There's nothing in 2026 right now.
Nothing, not a single game. And as Terry Mohajir came out, and I've been very hard on the schedule thing. He said, at least for the early on, there may be the possibility of taking some little bit rougher deals, As he said when he first came in at Arkansas State, they were already looking into 2030s. Here, they still had to fill 2022 at the time. So, there's a lot of work to be done. UCF's not out of the water, not out of the hot water yet. It's going to be a little rough, especially that 2023 schedule. And then they got to really push hard on 2026. I mean, this happens fast, and these schedules fill up. I mean, a lot of people have complained about how far ahead the Florida schedules are. They're filled. They may have like 1 week or here in like 2028, but they have specific requirements on what their scheduling is based on their budget. They don't do anything less than 7 home games a year. So there was really no maneuvering room. So you're in the 2030s already. Welcome to modern college scheduling, by the way, UCF, because that's the normal now.
I'm going to be 50 years old when that 2033 game rolls around.
Wow, you're old. Oh, I'll be
wow,
just short of 48. Just short.
Man. But something. I'm excited. I really. Okay. It's been a reality check, I think, for quite a few fans out there. Who have not found, especially the Florida deal, to be quite favorable in that respect. But Drew, you've been on the bandwagon from the very beginning, saying that no, this was the right deal to make.
Well, and Terry Mohajir came out and said, look, for 2024, we had 3 options: Florida, which was the best option as far as what he felt, and second FCS school, which is instant ridicule in the college football world, does not count towards bowl eligibility, and is a major black eye, or schedule no one and go with 11, which is, it's just as bad, if not worse, than the FCS option. I mean, there were no good options left on that 2024
no,
slate.
Scheduling no one is worse than the FCS option, because at least you get some gate by playing an FCS team. If you don't have a game, you don't get anything.
Yeah, and you're still embarrassed of the fact that your scheduling is not up to snuff with anybody else. I mean, the fact that you have to schedule 11 games because no one would schedule you is embarrassingly bad. So Florida was able to, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. They could, Florida has the financial wherewithal and power that they could have basically bought to help relocate someone else's game and make that 2024 game happen. But UCF was available. As you can see from the result of the following, essentially like a home and home series in the 2030s, there is a much better relationship between Terry Mohajir and Kevin Strickland compared to what happened before. We won't get into that with Danny White.
I know you want to.
Oh, I so want to. But
so
you know what?
Bad.
There is a time and a place, and I'm not going to hijack the rest of this segment. So, but I mean,
Lord knows this segment's already been hijacked.
Yeah, be careful
by Dennis Dodd.
Yeah, be careful before Bob Bowlsby accuses
oh my God,
20 teams. I mean,
but I mean, look at the results. You got this the one-off. Essentially, it's a one-off and a home, but it's really a 2-for-1 when you go from a single deal. With Florida, you got the home and home with Maryland, both Power 5 schools. Sends a loud message to the rest of the college football world. 1, there's a new sheriff in town. This isn't the old UCF. 2, they're willing to make a deal. They're willing to work with you. And 3, someone crossed the line, the picket line. UCF was a scheduling pariah since 2018 when they made their last scheduling change with a Power 5 team. So no one's touched them since. Well, guess what? Now you have a team with a 2-1 and a home and home from the Power 5. It sends a very loud message that, what happened before is gone. It's a new era for UCF, and I think you'll start seeing that schedule fill out. And as I said early on, there may be some one-offs in there to kind of just fill in the gap, but you're going to see a lot more scheduling coming down the pipeline in the upcoming months.
Eric, what do we think?
Well, first of all, Dennis Dodd has updated his article now to include the 8 members with the, and this is great. I mean, it's just phenomenal.
He's hijacked it again. That's the 3rd time this segment.
Well, because Bob Bowlsby keeps dialing him up. By the way,
someone take the phone from Bob Bowlsby.
I'm going to tell you
now.
something.
I almost feel sorry for the guy.
Get him. Yeah, get him out of. Make sure he's not driving, and make sure he's not styling anybody. All right.
Oh my gosh.
Go to sleep, buddy. No, I think you're seeing a lot of paranoia, right? This tells you they don't trust each other. Hey, you think you're leaving. You're leaving. I feel bad for whichever school leaked this to Bowlsby. I feel really sorry for them because they might be on the outside looking at about 5 years from now. So from a scheduling standpoint, I went to the Maryland game. I think that's, look, by the way, where are all those people that were concerned about the Florida deal? Like, oh, well, now no Power 5 teams are going to do a home and home. Well, you just saw one with Maryland. So, those are the, look, real.
Yep.
Remember
that
those
turned
that
out
crowd?
to be.
How'd that go? Look, realistically, this is what you're going to get for UCF. This is the best you're going to do is you're going to get some of these lower tier, programs on a home and home. You hope that Maryland can kind of get something going there with their head coach. And look, I can tell you from experience, that's a cool trip. I've done that trip. You could go to see the Nationals or the Orioles in baseball over the weekend. Maybe the Washington NFL team will be playing a home game. There's the Capitol. I mean, depending on when this game is, you could do a lot of good stuff there. I like their campus. I'm good for that home and home. I like it. I've been pro the Florida deal. They get that in the Bounce House. We'll see what happens with the Florida game, obviously, depending on what happens with the SEC. Does the SEC go to 9 games in conference? If they do, then if they do, that could put this Florida series in jeopardy. And then when does that 9 games kick in? Does the 9-game schedule kick in before 2024? Does it kick in after 2024? So I think the Florida thing is definitely, I'll be curious. Don't be surprised if that gets moved around. I would not be surprised if it got moved around. Hopefully not. But again, with this SEC situation, who knows? But the Maryland thing, I'm for it. I like the home and home. And I think Terry will, I think we're going to see some one-offs by the time the schedule's all fulfilled. Don't you?
Well, let's talk a little bit about Florida's schedule. Yeah. You brought that up about the possibility of a movie. And the good news is at least for 2030 and 2033, there's no more than 3 out-of-conference games scheduled. And in 2030, one of them is Texas. So, scratch that. You got 2 for each one, UCF and Florida State. I think those 2 games are safe. 2024 is the real question.
Yeah.
They could ultimately move that to 2027 if they wanted to because there's a spot available. Or they nix the FCS game against Samford. Unfortunately, UCF cannot take that spot. That September 7th spot because UCF scheduled to play Liberty and Liberty's schedule is already full for 2024. So it's either it sits at 2024 or I think it moves to 27 or 29 because it's a home game for Florida. It gives them flexibility and they already have one road set up for each of those with Florida State at home. So I am very confident that Florida will not buy out of the game. They will.
Well, it's going to be expensive to do that. And the fact that and some people are like, well, why are they announcing this? Well, I think they're announcing it to prove that they have it on ink. It's under contract now. You're not going to announce something if it's.
They got financial security behind it. There's teeth.
Yeah, correct. I agree. Man. So, I mean, look, that's the way it's going to be. And you know what I really have been blown away? I don't know if you both have noticed. Terry's pretty blunt. Like, even in the press releases. Like, he's not going to sugarcoat, right? Like, he's like, look, we're in a bad spot. Like, how many times he's just going to keep subtly burying Danny White and the job he did?
Man, you're right about that.
Think about it. Where's the latest quote on the press release?
I love it.
I know you do. I know. Look at Jeff.
You're talking about on the Maryland one?
Yeah. Or is it the Maryland one or the Florida one?
No. It's the Florida one. Here's the quote from Terry Mohajir. Quote, as I've said since arriving, we were in desperate need for games on our upcoming schedule. He continues. I love this man. He's amazing. For the 2024 season specifically, we had 3 options. Play just 11 games instead of 12, play 2 FCS opponents, or play at Florida. We obviously made the best choice for our program and recruiting.
And anyone who says play 2 FCS is better is wrong.
I agree with you. But how many ADs would be that blunt? Like, that's not sugarcoating it, right? It's pretty much, look, and he's been pretty upfront about this stuff.
Straightforward as it gets.
He's like, because he knows there's a percentage of the fan base that will not like it. but he's being real honest, and you got to give him, whether you agree with it, don't agree with it, you like it, you don't like it, whatever. He's being upfront with you. He's not going to sugarcoat you. He's not going to treat you like an 8-year-old like the last 8.
We don't want coach speak or anything like that. We want facts. It
goes back to to Toby Ziegler in The West Wing, right? You know, all else fails, tell the truth.
That was such a great show.
And that is a good show. But you know what that statement also tells you? That pretty much UCF's been blackballed from scheduling, and that's what Terry's dealing with.
No, not anymore.
No.
Right. But I'm saying that's what they've been dealing with. To Drew's point, people tuned out Danny White. They blackballed him. They basically said, "No, we're not going to deal with you. You're going to act that way. You're going to come out thinking you're a big shot. We're going to show you." And I think that's where I didn't have a problem with Danny's philosophy. Where I think he made the mistake is when he was very brash of saying, "We're only doing home and homes." You just gave up. You're negotiating. You're not going to tell these schools what to do. You're not. Not
only that, but once he had that public spat against Florida, I mean, that was so poorly handled. Just so poorly handled. Who would want to deal with that?
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And I think Danny's emotional. I think he got the best of him.
He got caught up in the moment.
In the moment. Yeah. And
the problem was
I don't know if it's getting caught up in the moment as much as he took a big swing and he whiffed on it.
Well, and then he kind of went and started going full tilt on it, and by the time
he really miscalculated, and I think that the miscalculation stems from the fact that it wasn't all that long ago we were that school that was like, all right, anywhere, anytime, we'll come to your place, we'll play you, whatever. I mean, when we were in school, right? Wasn't all that long ago, and he tried to say, look, there's a new sheriff in town, but we didn't quite have the, we just didn't quite have the juice to make it happen.
Now,
so you got to make some concessions, and Terry Mohadra did.
Here's the question: if this whole Dennis, Dodd 8 school psychotic thing happens.
This is now the 4th time this segment's been hijacked by.
Well, no, but this rules
Bob Bowlsby and Dennis Dodd.
This is all about scheduling. Aside from the fact that the American probably would have to go to 9 games, but that's neither here nor there. Does that elevate the status of UCF's ability to negotiate scheduling so that they get larger name opponents? Even if it's, instead of Maryland, you move up to Michigan State. I mean, can they at least move up a level if this happens?
Well, I think our friends in Bristol, Connecticut might have something to say about that. Don't you, Eric?
Well, yeah, considering they're going to make a lot of these TV games. They always do.
Exactly.
That's how these like games in Orlando get made and the kickoffs in Atlanta. I think, and that's what I said earlier. I think you're going to see UCF in a lot of these one-offs, and I'm going to prepare all our UCF fans for this because I know some of these is not going to like it. I think you're going to see some one-offs at Campy World. I'm just going to say that right now.
I wouldn't mind that.
The only way it works is if UCF receives enough of a financial guarantee that they basically make as much as they make at a home game. They need to be whole. Yeah. If they can be whole, that works.
Well, you have a big enough stadium where you can make that happen.
Well, but the thing was, when UCF had the original time with Florida Citrus Sports, they got the gate, but they didn't get the parking, they didn't get the concessions, they didn't get any of that stuff. So there needs to be financial guarantees in place that UCF's going to be made whole, or else it's not worth it.
Unless you have no other options.
We should send you into the room to go negotiate.
But Drew, how much leverage does UC have? You just mentioned it. What leverage do they have right now? That's the problem. They have to fill dates. So I hear what you're saying, but if you get offered a one-off with a Georgia, for example, are you really gonna?
Give me Georgia and Camping World.
If you're going with a blue chip, blue blood program, that's one thing. Obviously you got to make some sacrifices with that. If you get a Clemson, an Alabama, a Georgia.
Yeah, that's what I think it's going to be. Yeah, I think that's what it's going to be.
It's Miami, pound sand.
Wow.
Wow.
You're sounding like Mike Bianchi over there. Hey, Miami should schedule UCF. Why aren't they doing it, Drew?
Well, in fairness, they looked into it and they were going to do a home and home until Florida Citrus Sports got in the ear, and then it became a 2-1 in Florida, and UCF said,
Well, Well, we'll see, but we'll see. I'm just telling you, I think you're going to see some one-offs, and I think Florida Citrus has wanted to get UCF in one of those games. I think what Florida Citrus's motto has been, try to get an SEC ACC matchup or get one of the Florida teams to play in that game. They've gotten Florida Miami in that game. They've gotten Florida State to play in that game against Ole Miss. Florida State is actually going to play LSU here coming up, I think, in the next year or two in that game. So the motto is there. It's to your point, Drew. Can they come to terms? I think we're made. But I think that's going to be I think that's one way where you can fill up some spots by doing some one-offs.
And fans are not going to have problems with the one-off neutral games. They're more against the 2-1, unbalanced schedule. However, those Florida State games, all those, they get their financial guarantees. They're made. It's made worth their while to do. So I imagine they would make it that UCF at least made their minimum to be able to make it work. Because, you got to keep the lights on.
All right. Well, I don't know. I would not mind seeing UCF play in Camping World in a 50-50 game of some kind against a big name opponent. I think that would be a lot of fun. We've been speculating about that for years, ever since they actually started doing the kickoff game at the place formerly known as the Citrus Bowl.
I would rather play that than say play a one-off, against at
FIU again,
or something nonsense like that. And that's by the way, all these people that were upset about these schedules, were they upset when UCF turned that Penn State home and home into a one-off at Penn State and then play in Dublin, Ireland?
Well, the only reason why that happened is Penn State said, if you don't, we're buying out of it.
Correct. And Judge,
you do this
George O'Leary, right? But I don't remember people didn't complain. I mean, they just accepted it. I just want to play games. I want to play good games. I want to visit cool places, cool stadiums. I don't want to go to a freaking high school stadium anymore. That's all.
Well, remember, you've got pre-2017 UCF and post-27 UCF, which are very, very different from a fan standpoint. The attitude of the fan had drastically changed from that season on.
I will say this, though, if they do expand the American, though, that makes Terry's job a lot easier, doesn't it? Because now you go from filling up so many spots to oh, wait a minute, if we're playing
a lot of your schedules are already filled.
Well, I mean, you're probably going to have a 9-game conference schedule, so you lose one, but you still got to fill in the rest, and you have less teams to choose from.
Yeah. All right. Well,
are you both? Because the question then becomes: does that become 2 divisions? Do you do pods? That's been the hot take.
That is so far afield. I have no clue. I really have no clue.
You almost have to make 2 different leagues out of it. I mean,
you could do off the top of my head. I mean, if we're going whole hog and we're doing a 20-team league, all right. Let's go big. Go big or go home, right? If we're doing a 20-team American Athletic Conference, the America 20, right? Let's do 4 pods of 5. All right? You play your pod mates, 2 home, 2 away, and you play
another pod.
You play another pod. Well, that would be 5, so that's 9. I don't know if I would do that.
It's going to be after 9 conference games.
It would have to be. I would do. No, you could do 8. 1 from the other pods.
Even if the SEC goes.
Oh
16,
no, I'm sorry. I'm wrong. No,
if the SEC goes 16.
But wait. So the Daily Stampede, our friends at the Daily Stampede, who probably have the best perspective out of anybody, really.
Yes.
What they've been through with the Big East and all. Great tweet here. Having been on both sides of the wow, that commissioner blew it situation, we can confirm this side is way, way better.
But wait, aren't we supposed to fire Oresco?
When they're right, they're right.
Oh, man. I think Oresco's going to earn his salary this year.
We'll see. We'll see how this goes. Let's hope it should be an interesting week coming up. We got media days coming up. Oh, by the way,
wild week, wild month, wild few years.
If you don't lose anyone, you won. You survived.
Right? No, you're right. Good point.
Yeah. All right. Let's wrap this thing up. So follow us, UCF _Banneret on Twitter, Eric Lopez Elo. And, of course, Statboy Drew on Twitter. Don't forget to follow Bryson Turner for the latest on UCF. athletes in the Olympics and any updated baseball.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way,
shout out real quick. Shout out to Brian Murphy, who's doing MLB.com work all week. Trade deadline, big trade. The Yankees get Joey Gallo. He's on top of all that stuff and other stuff he's writing about. And I'm just going to apologize to Murphy if he's listening. Yes, there was a lot of speculative podcasts. We apologize to you in advance. Sorry.
Yeah,
we did this in your honor.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks to it's Bryson. By the way, a little baseball note for you. Josh Crouch has signed a contract with the Detroit Tigers. So that means all 3 UCF MLB draftees from this year have signed with their major league teams. Nobody's coming back. Congratulations to Josh. Congratulations to Jack Sinclair. Congratulations to Colton Gordon. Really wish we could have seen a little bit more of them next year, but off to greener pastures in more ways than one. And congratulations to them. We wish them all the best. We'll be following them throughout their UCF or post-UCF careers in baseball. So make sure you follow us, like we mentioned, on Twitter, UCF_Banneret, Facebook.com/Black and Gold Banneret. And, of course, at blackandgoldbanneret.com, we are your home for UCF sports on SB Nation. If you subscribe to this podcast, we thank you so much for doing that. Please tell your friends to subscribe to us on either Apple Podcasts.
Put the phone down, Bowlsby. Put the bottle down.
Subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts if you are on an Apple device. If you're on an Android device, you can subscribe to us via Spotify or wherever fine podcasts are distributed for free. If you do subscribe to us, please leave us a rating and a comment. We love to hear from you. And don't forget to hit us up on our Twitter account, of course, UCF_Banneret. That'll do it for us for this wild evening. My gosh. It's already, now it's Thursday, July 29th. We're past midnight recording this crazy
So the real question is, which liquor of choice is Bob Bowlsby?
Stop it. Don't get us canceled, please, Drew. Stop. All right, we need to get out of here. For
cease and desist us, Drew.
For cease and desist, Drew, please.
I've been ceased.
For Drew and Eric, I'm Jeff. We'll catch you next week, unless Bob Bowlsby continues to call Dennis Dodd throughout the night. See you later, guys.